Okay, there we go.
Yeah, I just was reposting, so you probably should repost a couple times so you can see the space because I don't know what's happened when it
Yeah, I don't even want to
when
touch.
it shut
I
down.
don't even want to move to do anything because it'll lose here. And hi, Dark Justin. Yeah, we just I'm trying our first space here, so bear with us here. Are you interested in speaking at all, Justin? We're just trying to figure stuff out. If you are,
Just
just
get him to
request.
put his thumb up or whatever.
Yeah, I know. Peace man, you're on. Can you hear us good? Nope.
Yep. Good day, guys.
Oh, hi.
Remember, I'm on satellite, so there's about a 2 second delay.
Okay, yeah, we're not sure if we're gonna do much today. We're just trying to figure this out because I'm sure you see that we're very throttled and limited in who responds to anything. But
Well, I make a suggestion
sure.
that because I've looked into all of yous, just like you looked into me, and we keep it light and just show some solidarity. We don't have to get into a whole lot of things. I think it's a great idea to show that there's people that are critical thinkers that are not afraid of this plan that they've been put in place.
Yeah, true enough.
Wow, great idea.
Yeah.
Great idea.
And David, do you know Dana Peaceman at all?
Just a little.
Okay. And
We have never spoken.
yeah, well,
Make sure that you
yeah,
know that we've never spoken. So
yeah,
sometimes that's the best way because that's when questions and answers happen in open.
yeah. Well, I'll give you my version of Peaceman. He's been trying hard to get people to listen to him as well, and it's proving, I think, fairly hard to get anyone. And in my case, it's hard to get anyone new. Sure, we have the same 50 or 100 friends, and I used to have 20 people that would reshare stuff, but now I'm down to like three or four. So the idea of this is just to figure out how we can get the word out. If it's whether David and I or whoever just continue on with these. I'm also trying to learn how to put text and videos on because we have lots of goodies to share. David's also got a lot, but he's kind of limited because he's got gag orders. So
Hey, Kirk, I just want to suggest always when you're doing rooms, I've taken part in many, many rooms, so I'm very familiar. So I'm going to help you out a little bit.
yeah,
Um, always make a co host because it helps if there's some infiltration in the room and you have somebody to help you right away. So
yeah,
always make a co host and keep control of the speakers in the room. Make sure
yeah,
hands are respected and whatnot. So that's just my advice.
yeah. I requested David earlier, and he just accepted. I see there's a mute everyone button down here, so that must be when something gets south. Um, so there's we can invite people here. Okay.
Yeah, Kirk, I've got the mute everyone on my side too. I've never co-hosted before, so thanks, Peace Man. Any suggestions is great.
Yeah.
I was just in a room for 2 hours that was worldwide. It was fantastic. It was just regular. That brings us back to not being a conglomerate. This is where people are just starting to figure out each other. Hey, wait, look what you're doing. Look what I'm doing. It's starting to intermesh, is what I'm saying. I know for a fact that David's information meshes with some of the things that I'm working on. So that's what we're talking about here is there is a large presence we know that is trying to suppress information. And this is just regular Canadians that have actually, all three of us, served our governments, served the people of Canada with dignity and honor. And they're trying to take that away from us. And you know what? I won't let it happen to me at all. So they can do all their tricks and everything else, but this is for us to speak openly and just, we don't have to get into all the evidence and stuff. These rooms are to show that there is some solidarity still within Canadians with critical thinking.
Yeah, well, to be honest, we have 4 more listeners than I thought we'd get. So that's a start. And Peace Man, if you wanted to, you're doing pretty good. You're already fresh with your story. If you wanted to maybe talk a bit about yourself, please.
Well, this isn't going to be, too much about the individual, but more about the cooperation of just citizens coming together and speaking about this. Everybody knows that what I did, but did they realize why and the symbolism and everything else involved? I can go into a little bit about that. There's When I was sitting here in my cottage in the Boreal Forest, where I didn't need to leave, I could see a beautiful thing happening. Canadians coming out of their home for the first time in 2 years. It didn't matter who got them out of the house. That's what's going to come important later, okay? It didn't matter what underlying things got them out of the house. It's that they got out of the house and they started supporting each other. That was they poked and prodded before anybody even reached Ottawa to try to prompt dislike and division within citizens, calling people names and stuff, even from our prime minister. So I was sitting and watching the whole thing, and I decided I'd make a little video to myself, and I posted it. And it said that I seen the bad actors as well coming across the country, the opportunists, the well, I can say well planned underlying issues. So I could see that because I was always in the background watching and documenting a lot of things that you don't see on the internet. You can find out through some of the investigation that I have put out there. And I haven't put out everything. I have four 1 terabyte drives of just this part of the investigation. So I went to Ottawa and I made a video and I predicted a whole bunch of things. And I so far, you know what? Boom, I'm dead on what was going to happen. So, but there was one that I was wrong. I thought that the love and the compassion was going to really do something different. But then the commercialization came in. And the citizens' voice, everybody that went there did not know that a corporation was going to be formed that spoke for you. And then when the citizens stayed so peaceful and loving, and I gave 10,000 hugs. It's on video, and the papers were starting to use pictures of me because of the message, not because of the man. It was just a man standing in peace with a flag to show the patronage of any country. He was standing in a bushman's outfit to show you about time, to remind you about the time of our forefathers that already fought for peace, because Bushmen are what created Canada. And then I was standing on documents. I was standing on a line, if you noticed in so many pictures, that I never took any pictures of myself. But there's thousands and thousands. Getty Images sells my picture for $700 daily. Okay? It's ridiculous. The commercialization that came from this instead of the actual message. The government never responded because a corporation placed demands on a Five Eyes country. It's plain and simple. Nobody realized. But if you do your homework and like these retired veterans, if you know how to use your critical thinking, then you can prove all of this. So I set out to do so before the convoy. And that documentation is presented. And if you want to put that link up, Kirk, that's up to you.
I don't
But
know how
I
to do
think it's
that quite
important.
yet. So yeah,
I think it's important. Well, you just press the little bubble down on the bottom right, and you put in the page, because you see, we don't have to beat our government. We are the government. You can't fight the government. We are the government. But you can use the citizen tools to show or to ask for accountability, which has not been done. And I'm not one to take everybody to court all the time. Instead, I force them to use the accountability tools we already pay for as citizens. I actually have something under federal review right now, and that's what I'm going to tell you about a little bit. That's what you wanted to hear. And to get something under federal review is extremely difficult without paying to do it through the courts. So before 2022, when Justin Trudeau announced on June 26, 2021, that he would never bring in mandates, I recorded that live. On August 13th, in a scrum, I was recording live, and Justin Trudeau says, we're bringing in 2 federal mandates. So within 2 months, the whole message had changed, and I was wondering about the legal validity of that. How could that be? So this is where the critical thinking comes involved, and why I like David's work, because you take these very basic questions that are not being asked because of all of the distractions that they put in place. You bypass that. You get all those distractions out of your mind. You stay on the base uh, of your investigation. So the next question is, when I seen that, I played both videos beside each other, and I thought about the legal validity. So I scoured for weeks on all the legal pages, and only one discussion about the legal validity was said at McGill University. So I recorded that, and I emailed that lawyer, and of course, the silence, right? Because they know they're wrong. So I put in a request with our ATIP. That's Access to Information and Privacy in Canada. And I requested the path that was filed at the DOJ, because a government program cannot be instituted without it being proven legal in the first place. It's not up to the citizens to prove whether it's legal. It's up to the government and their responsibility that they deem it legal before it becomes a government program. So I asked for all of the supporting documents and the final decision on what council, what judge, who says that these 2 federal mandates separately are legal. And you know what happened? They put a 1,875-day extension onto my request. That's 5 years before they even have to start answering you. And there's only 2 things that can happen when you put in an ATIP. One is an extension. The other one is they give you the information. And they're allowed to give so many pages per day. And they calculate that up, and they give you a date on when your request is finished. So because I requested the path and the final decision, they came back and told me there was going to be 480,000 pages created within the certain time frame that I had put in the request. If you're following along, you can find all of this information at the peace-man.ca/ATIP. So what exactly were most people going to Ottawa for? To remove these mandates, these illogical and seemingly illegal mandates. So I actually requested that. So the DOJ puts a 5-year extension, and I make a complaint to the OIC, Office of the Information Commissioner. And my complaint is marked invalid 5 times. So I'm a bit tenacious, and I continue, and I keep on them. And I prove, and I end up with an unsolicited call from the ATIP DOJ director. And she tells me, Dana, there is no way to remove an extension. It's never happened. There is no process, blah, blah, blah. And I said to her, recorded. Well, I'll teach you how. And in 10 days, the very first extension ever in Canadian history was reversed. They used many different terms, actually, and it's all documented there. And their wording, remember the Office of the Information Commissioner? You see, they're supposed to take care of the wording that our government uses to make sure that it's correct. And when you find that these media and everybody else are not giving correct information, if you don't correct the action, then it just continues. So I kept putting complaints in. And finally, I get an investigator that is a historical reference investigator for OIC, and he validates one of my claims. And the claim was that they called me unsolicited. You see, when you put in a ATIP request, if you ask only to communicate through email, I do not wish to have any calls, they have to respect that, or else they break the act, which is law. Another 2 years goes by, and I keep on them, and I keep giving them evidence of document manipulation, of a whole bunch of things. And I make these official claims, and they're marked invalid. And then this investigator actually, through 4 or 5 different times, the claims kept going up. And then he validated 5 claims, submitted it to the commissioner. The commissioner had to put out a final report, but you won't find it because they didn't put it out to the public. They only gave it to me. So what good is that, right? There'd be no public discussion then. So I put in a request that they put it out to the public under the Act 30-1, which means that I'm requesting the commissioner to put it out under public safety. Because if we can't trust our DOJ in obeying the law themselves, how, I don't want to lose trust in our systems. I want to show that our systems can correct this action. And so instead of going by law, trying to fight them through courts and stuff, why don't we use the tools that are built in to hold accountability that are already paid for? So the next steps have been that it's under federal review now. Okay. And the request, I'm about to post the most recent communications. And in that communication, you'll see that I give them 7 days to answer now. And anyways, that's the story. That's why I stood there. It wasn't to build a business, wasn't to sell t-shirts, it wasn't to do political interference of anything. It was for the citizens. And I thought it was working great. And I started to communicate with all groups. I was asked to help many and promote many. And then I get invited into the most, how am I going to say this without getting into it? Like I said, we want people to understand without judging right away. But it was the biggest snake pit that I had ever entered. And my father always told me, if you ever found yourself sitting at a table of snakes, get up and leave. You're going to get bit a few times, but you're going to survive. Maybe to come back and clean that pit. So that's what I'm doing these days. I'm paying attention to David and Kirk on their stuff because it really intermingles in a lot of ways. And the thing is that that ATIP request about the mandates is only one aspect of the larger investigation. I've also done ATIP requests on the camera footage. You'll notice that on the right hand side of the street on Wellington is the Privy Council. The other side of the street is the Parliament buildings. They're both exempt from ATIP. But there is a public camera on the sidewalk that moves, that records, and was used for public safety and tourism. I did an ATIP request on that from when the cops were beating down on people. And I didn't do it to the city of Ottawa. I did it to RCMP first because they were the lead investigators. They have to have this footage. So the RCMP lied and said that they don't have this footage. And I put it back to them and they refused to respond that you have to have it. Kim Agwainet, or whatever his name is, said under oath that he had access to all the cameras across Canada for the main investigation. So does that mean he was incompetent and didn't record the most important parts? You know, it's the basic thinking that really they're distracting you with help me pay for a lawyer, do this, do that, please kiss my fucking feet. Excuse the language. I don't usually do that, but I'm really getting sick of it. So if you can prove that you're doing things, you heroes and you controlled alternative media, then challenge me. Because I've said it many times outwards, but instead y'all block me because you're cowards. And that's my speech for today. I love Canadians.
Yeah, Peaceman, that was awesome. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense, and we're all facing the same difficulties. But I think Britt had something to say.
Yeah, I think I could add to that, Peacemaker. I would wonder. I mean, I'm in the States, but I've traveled to Canada and done some training and work up there, and I love you guys and your heritage and cultures. I experienced while I was up there. It was outstanding. I mean, we are neighbors, but I would like to add that what is the commonality between some of the, I mean, you could call it insanity or whatever you would like to say, that we're seeing in these policies between the States and Canada right now. And I mean, I would go as far to say it has a lot to do with the woke and the hardcore people on the left that really institute these things, and they don't even have an eye for middle ground. I mean, they went as far as to they have went as far as to take.
Actually, before you go on, that's a beautiful and excellent question, and I don't want it to be lost in going on.
Okay.
To answer that, this is exactly what I have been investigating. This is not a Canada thing. This is a worldwide thing. It actually has to do with more than 183 countries. On my profile, you will see a pinned post that answers your question. And really, what needs to happen is investigation, which is not being happening on the basic questions on why the exponential changes happening around the world in every country is it is being controlled, and you can actually figure it out, and it's provable. But why are none of these media on? And you said left and stuff like this. I don't like to. Anybody that knows me knows that I don't like labels. There is only one label right now, and that a lot of people are forgetting, and that is human. We are all human.
So what?
And
what maybe I should have said it this way. There should be a code of ethics for every publicly elected official. And maybe audits should be conducted by third parties, like quarterly or on every aspect of holding that position, or sometime, Rick, maybe not quarterly. And there should be no job more transparent in the USA or Canada than a president or a Congress or a Senate, that for the people to plant
Well,
these people.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's my point.
And I have to apologize. I'm on satellite, so it's hard to know when I can cut in or not. But that you've actually hit the nail on the head. Is first of all, there shouldn't be these leaders of countries. The first thing is that humanity needs to learn that their systems are failing. So there should always be a council. If we look back at human history, way far back, it was always run by councils and stuff, and they were very good um, uh, civilizations. Okay. And but we don't have councils anymore that speak for an entire country. We have one person that makes decisions, and this is how they're getting away with it, actually. So we got to get back to the councils thing, but first we need investigation. And if you look and read that one post, my pinned post, you'll see that it was even told to you that Klaus Schwab said that these young global leaders, including Putin, including Justin, and he lists an entire regala of people and countries that are penetrated. If we don't, not one political party in Canada took offense to that. Not one political party in your United States took offense to that statement from an entity, not from another country. We have investigations that are what I like to call the distractions into um, um, uh, election manipulation. But the thing is that it's not coming from a country; it's coming from an entity. And this is happening in all these countries. So that's the answer to your question. Is it is not it's not other countries attacking each other.
Hey, Brett, just before I forget, Americans are our allies. They've been for it forever. I'm not sure. I think you might have just added me on X here, but I'm not sure if you know my story. But I am a military whistleblower, and I actually drove across the border to the states in Abbotsford trying to get asylum. And the border crossing, the RCMP was called. Everyone was called. I had guns. I had survival rations, and my 5-year-old son. And what they did was they shook my hand, said we're all in this together, and gave me back my guns, which were illegal to cross the border. Like I was trying to get arrested or asylum, and they rejected me. And I'm a pretty good guy, so that's just how bizarre everything is. And I'll just leave. If anyone wants to put their hand up to speak, or maybe David has something to say.
Yeah, does anyone have something else to say? Just put up your hand. Otherwise, I got a few things to say. Yeah, go for it, Javit.
Hey guys, how's it going? Sorry about the ambient noise. I'm still on the side of the highway here, 1 and 22, doing our protests. So, yeah, we've been at her for 157 days. Dana, it's great to see you, brother. Thank you for all you've done, man. And the one thing that I can say that I've learned from you is how to stand fast and stand strong and just keep that consistent message. So, you're an inspiration to me, bro. That's all I got to say about that. Yeah, the topics you guys are talking about, this, I think that what we're seeing now is a shift, like with, in Canada, we have this Singh backpedaling now, and that's because he's going to be fighting for his own riding in a by-election, which is going to screw him up. His pension is gone, right? I don't know if you're familiar with how that works or not, but his pension will be gone if he loses that seat. So now his deal that he did with Trudeau isn't going to save him. He's going to lose his pension because the NDP are in shambles and nobody trusts him. So he was the little bastard that was propping it all up. And, now it is what it is. I mean, he deserves to get what he gets, as they all do. There was I just want to remind everybody that April 1st, 2024, 338 politicians took a pay raise when you got a carbon tax added to your life. So think about that when you're going to the voting polls. It's uniparty, and you know, if voting actually mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. Sorry about that, guys. Like I said, I'm on the highway. But if voting really truly mattered, they wouldn't let you do it. You don't win by electing people that think they're leaders over you. The politicians we have in our country, last time I checked, each party has one leader and the rest are representatives. And I don't see a whole lot of representing going on. There used to be an old school terminology. If you didn't represent, well, most times back in your home neighborhood, you'd get the shit kicked out of you for not being a representing, you know. So I'm just saying, you know, like, yeah, I love you guys, man. I love Canada. I really do. And if you guys are like near Calgary, 20 minutes west of Calgary, swing down, man. We've now out here at this carbon camp, or well, it's not even a carbon camp, it's a carbon protest, but we've seemed to drop into a gray area of the law. We have our legal federal petition. We're collecting for the MP, and we put our flags up, and apparently we can stay for as long as we want, or until they write a law to get rid of us, because there just isn't one for us to be on public property. So we're parked on the side of this Wayscale International Highway, and we're meeting tens of thousands of people. We're talking and we're hearing the stories. And, you know, I'll tell you, Dana, you know, like the strength that I got watching you all the way through Ottawa is I'm seeing that strength coming up in real Canadians here on the side of the road, bro. Like where they're just sick of it. They ain't going to live in fear. You know, that's what I'm hearing now. No more fear. Enough of this nonsense. We got to stand for our families and for our friends, and we got to start unpacking the damage that's been done. We need to find out where the $700 billion is that these bastards have printed and shuffled around. Pierre Poilievre, if he becomes prime minister, simply as this, the way I see it, is he has $700 billion of Trudeau's money that he's printed that he gets to shuffle around. He's the finance guy, right? He's coming in to smooth out all of because the New World Order, they know they can't win. Not by force, and they've pushed it to the limit. And now they got to give us a few wins. That's the way I see it. And Pierre Poilievre and Trump and these things are going to slow us down. They're going to tell us not to keep looking. You don't have to look anymore. Everything's okay. Don't look here. It's all good, right?
Hey Java, where are you
Anyways,
located? Are you just outside of Calgary?
yeah, south of Calgary, Alberta, 20 minutes, sorry, fucking, I forgot where I was. West of Calgary,
Okay,
Can I
20 minutes.
respond to him?
okay, Peaceman, go ahead. Sorry, remind me to talk to you, Java.
You're up, peace, man.
Okay, well, first of all, Java, love you. One thing I've noticed about you is that you were not corrupted. You remained a truthful citizen, no matter all of the talk and the attacks and stuff like this. I also want to commend you and thank you. You know, I noticed on your website you don't put anybody's personal stuff up or anything like that, but you did do that for me. You put a link to me and mentioned something very nice. So I want to thank you and commend you for standing up and not falling for the social fearing from the very top leaders aimed right at people like David and Kirk and myself. So, you know, we operate from personal experience, and we try to keep it so that people aren't totally turned off, but you have to try to shake them a little bit and say, listen, are you really thinking about what actually happened? You know, beautiful Canadians came together to try to save this country, and it was absolutely co-opted. So that's all we're saying, is to have the discussion openly. But these people like to fight with memes and blocking and controlling the media. Yeah, they made a mistake when they asked me into their snake pit, because I recorded them for 2 months and they know it. They're scared as F from me. So, okay, I even showed up to Chris and Tamara's court case, after I seen that nothing was being truthful in this courtroom. If we were to have real trials, even theirs, I'd like theirs to be thrown out too, even though I disagree with them. The reason why is because if we can't even get the proper footage from our public safety cameras, how can we be having fair trials? And if everybody was charged under the Queen versus Dana Lee Melfi or the Queen versus whoever, how can they change that in the middle of a court case, change the accuser from the Queen to a king, a different person altogether? You know, many of these things are not, these very, very important things are purposely not being brought up. And in our courtrooms, I went to a few of these court cases and I seen the same people being the witnesses from a lawyer firm that proved to me that entered into contract with me and broke it. So they know and they're scared of me because I don't back down. I'm not scared because I can stand by every bit of it. I've documented it and put it mostly online just to show them. You know, we are not scared as citizens. We see the deception. So I'm going to put my link in the bubble and I hope you visit. And Java, you keep doing what you're doing, man. I love you.
Okay, one quick thing, Java. Were you outside of Calgary? Were you there when I dropped off my Let Kirk Reese speak stickers? Because I went to the Cootsman's trial for one day, and I couldn't stand more than half an hour of it because I saw so much stuff that I could prove was wrong. But not that matters. I drove by and dropped off a bunch of stickers, so I
Yeah,
thought
I
I'd wait.
believe I was. I believe I was here that day. Well, I've been here every day except for the 11 that I got poisoned by my dentist. Literally, actually, she did that. A malpractice lawsuit against her. Unbelievable.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
like near killed me, the dentist. I mean, I never thought such a thing could happen, but it did. So weird.
We'll talk about that later.
Java,
But
if I decide to fly out there, you got somewhere for me to stay?
Hell was yeah, brother. I do.
where are you, Peace Man? Anyways, like which province? I'm not even sure. Sorry.
You can actually look on Google Maps and type in Peace hyphen or Peace Island. That's my island, Peace Island. It's an actual place on the map.
Oh, good call, David. You were wanting to speak a while back. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna add some filler. I wasn't gonna really get into my story because I just think we should sort of stick to topic and just let whoever wants to speak. And on the topic of how to get the truth out and help Canada and I, I I I guess I'd like to maybe highlight a few things I've heard so far. And the space is sort of designed towards whistleblowing, but mostly because we're whistleblowers, or a few of us are in the room are whistleblowers and have connected as such. But um, Peaceman said something at the beginning there about critical thinking and there needs to be investigations and when I first got into this, I didn't want to get into this. I was the reluctant whistleblower, if I could even call myself that, because I actually started working for the RCMP before I started whistleblowing per se. But I just want to make the point that Peaceman made, that just one person can make a huge difference. The problem with whistleblowing is that they try to separate you from the herd, and once you're separated from the herd, then you're kind of done, and you become kind of a lone wolf in the midst of having no one to really speak to, which is really problematic. And once they've got you separated, you're done for. And that's what happened to me in the early days. It's not that way now, but um, I just wanted to say that, like, over the 10 years of me investigating this, mostly by myself, in a basement with the walls painted with white paper that I could take a black marker to and create. It was like some part of a movie, like a serial killer movie, where they're either trying to investigate them. I had arrows drawn and people's names written on. I've still kept it, and I've kept it in a secret place, of course. But it's a lonely place. But what I was shocked at is how much, with a critical mind, if you just ask yourself the question every time you come upon something, is that really the way that is? And if you just dig in a little bit, and one thing leads to another, which leads to another, and then you understand the power of the privacy, the privacy FOIP requests that there are, and ATIP requests, and how you could use those, then you could get a lot done just as a single person. But now, thankfully, with X, we can now get together and we can share information, and whistleblowers can now speak without so much of a fear as it was like even just a few years ago, even like a year ago on X. When I first got on X 2 years ago, I was constantly, banned and shadow banned, and I couldn't even comment without getting banned. Um, the next thing I wanted to say is, Kirk, I, I just want to touch on the asylum, because in the early days too, I was told many times, head to the States, claim political asylum, especially when Trump got in. They were like, you got to get out of Canada, man. There's no protections for you. And I live about a half hour from the border. And then the other thing was the snake analogy. I'd like to take that to the next level, because I remember I was working with one of the guys who really did me in. He was my partner in my oil and gas company, and he said to me in the early days, I really didn't know what it meant. He said if you reach down, Dave, and grab a snake and it bites you, like, whose fault really is it? And I thought, holy fuck. Now looking back on it, he was just telling me what he was going to do. And so, anyways, I'm really enjoying the conversation. Maybe we can, stick to shorter snippets and get out some how to's to get the truth out there.
Well, I'll add my how tos is, I've been trying. I tried the Public Integrity Commissioner. I've tried a lot of government agencies. They've all let me down. Like even the CRCC, Civilian Review Complaints Commission for the RCMP. The RCMP, of course, have let me down. Every politician I've contacted, and every wannabe politician I've contacted, and I'm not asking for much. All I ever ask is that they say, look up the story of Kirk Reese, and of course I'll say Dana and Peaceman and David Drover all the time. But our phones aren't ringing off the hook like I would hope they would be, and that's why we're having this conversation. Is how can we get this out? Because a lot of these people that Dana was talking about, they say I'm crazy. They say I'm what do they say? I'm an idiot seeking attention. Well, all I'm asking is to share my story in the hopes that someday someone of authority, and I use that word sparingly, will step up and do their friggin' jobs. So that's the purpose of this conversation, and I can speak on Dave's behalf. We don't want to be podcasters. We don't want to do this. We don't want to talk about our stories ever again. But go ahead, Peaceman.
That's exactly it. Is I didn't want to do this. When remember, I'm still a government employee, and when I was employed by the government, I was a contractor to the government for 25 years, security cleared, and all of that. I all of us have received awards and everything else. What good is it now? You know, um, when I noticed, and I had 3,500 people telling me in the government, Dana, you got to do something about this. You got to do something about this. And I'm not going to talk about what I whistleblowed about first, but it was because of the people asking me. So I stood up and I put my career on the line and my health. And it actually turned out to not help my health. And when you become a whistleblower, there's actual whistleblower processes, and you use them, and you find out that it's actually going to the person you're whistleblowing on, which is the CEO of the Crown Corporation. And he laughs at you. So you continue and you go on, and this gives us people like you and myself the energy to keep going on. It's been very difficult. I didn't want to do this. I didn't want to be a hated man. I actually went to stand in peace with decorum for a reason. And they attack this. And like you said, the person that called you an idiot and stuff does this, and they use their massive gained popularity to attack people instead of help our country. When you have people like David and yourself that do actual paperwork and official investigations, and like myself, I've got federal review on it now. How many people make it that far using the citizen tools on just asking questions? I have now got the DOJ verified of breaking 4 laws. Not one of these media will pick it up because they know that I recorded them in an illegal room. And they're scared to hell that
Well,
I still stand up and I take their bull crap.
that's another reason, like, because now that I let the cat out of the bag, that I recorded this stuff for many, many years. Like, I have phone calls recorded. It's it's everything's provable. One Peaceman, we'll get back to you, but Daniel would like to speak. Thank you, Daniel.
Hey, so I'm an activist from BC. I was actually asked to launder some money on behalf of the Hells Angels and Freemasons in the film industry. I have attempted to blow the whistle, but this was more than 10 years ago. And ever since then, I am like public enemy number one. Every time I've done things like saving a man from an overdose, and the police show up with their hands on their guns ready to shoot me. They denied him medical care to show up and they're literally trying to shoot me. And it's I think it's 5 or 6 times that I've been a hero and actually helped like a woman in trouble or something. And the police literally show up and their goal is violence.
Yeah.
And
what you're talking about is the Cullen Commission. I'm going to break in there because there's actually something that happened just before COVID, and it's called the Cullen Commission. It was an investigation that had been spurred about money laundering in the casinos out west. It concludes in the final report. The commissioner concludes that the RCMP, city officials, and many people were involved. And exactly who you're talking about. So remember, everything is connected. Good observation, and keep on it.
Yeah, and in fact, there's some problems with the commission because one of the lawyers in the commission was named Alison Latimer, and she was simultaneously a lawyer for the commission and a lawyer for the Hells Angels, which is
I just want you to know and understand that I am very, very intrinsically involved in that, okay? And have very good information on it from people like camera operators within these casinos. My best friend was a camera operator in the casinos. So I just want you to understand that the commission did not look at everything. They actually refused evidence.
Indeed. Yeah, there were entire witnesses, key witnesses that were never called. Yeah, they never wanted a solution. Now, I'd like to talk about kind of where to go with this stuff, because some of the things that I have discovered is that the checks and balances are completely broken. Organizations like the Ombuds Office, you mentioned the Civilian Review, I have literally not found a single check and balance in British Columbia or Canada on the federal level that is functioning. None of the complaint processes work. In fact, I've had situations where I've tried to submit complaints through some of the legal aid system. You can read some of my posts on the legal aid system. It's the most massively corrupt thing I've ever encountered. But it's so. I'll have a conversation with someone for half an hour, tell them a whole bunch of details, dates, names, times, exact quotes, and then I get a Freedom of Information request, and there's one sentence that's been recorded. And this is happening at like the the health authorities patient care quality review section, like, you name it. It's as soon as they know you actually have a real complaint, they will ignore your allegations like you never made them. They'll make a decision without allowing you to present evidence, and then they'll say they looked at all the evidence. And it's happening so much across the government. And one of the things that I have tried to look into on the legal end of things is that there's the immunity and the ability to fight back and hold anyone accountable is almost zero. The laws have been designed in such a way, and there's so many loopholes that have been deliberately created, that it's almost impossible to get any sort of resolution, because they will just lie, they will deny, and then they will tell you that, sorry, you're out of appeals. Basically, oh well, the system, everything's okay, and you're expected to just go away. Yeah. And I think that we need to go right to the heart of the immunity that government employees have, because the powers that be that are pulling the strings, they need entry-level workers that have the right to hang up on you. They need managers that have the right to just ignore you and never call you back. They need those types of systems, or the whole system fails. There's, it's kind of I think the linchpin is their immunity, because if we can actually start taking government agents to court and win, then they have something to be afraid of. But what I'm seeing in the legal system, it's almost impossible. They can literally do anything they want, and then one of the sayings is the system is the punishment. Yeah. So they do something wrong to you, and then you're dragged through the mud over and over and over again. You go through months of very expensive, time-consuming, stressful appeals and complaints, and in the end, they just ignore you again.
Yeah, here, let me interject. Before Peaceman, one thing I've noticed is I'll explain my situation to a person in the government, and then all of a sudden they'll go on holidays. And then you have to try to get a hold of them a month later, and they don't work there anymore. Then you get a different worker. You explain your situation every time. And every time we explain our situation, I'm speaking for myself personally, but it's very traumatizing to explain to everybody over and over again. And that's why I don't want to talk about this anymore. But, and that's how they thrive on it. And the first question is, well, how did it affect you? Well, it ruined my fucking life. I had a great life before. Dave had a great life. I'm sure a lot of us had great lives before. And we get penalized for doing what we're supposed to do. Like in the military, I had to report this. I took my oath very seriously, and that's the thing, is that no one realizes there's no one to complain to. I know Peaceman's making some headway, and, and maybe it takes one person in that one government agency to stand up, but usually they don't last that long. So go ahead, Peaceman, please.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you, Kirk, for standing up to your oaths. Then I'll move on to Daniel. I want to thank you, because what you just said was dead on. And do you know who the PIDC is? Public Information Disclosure Commissioner? I actually have a file number and a complaint about 18 government agencies not operating to their mandates and not operating to their processes in 2018. And they ignored it. They and before I could bring it to the PIDC, you have to go through the whole ombudsman thing. And I had already taken 2 years to go through the ombudsman investigations, where they sided. They didn't even listen to what I said. They went to PEBA and listened to what they said. And that was it. That was their deciding thing. They didn't even ask me for evidence for their final things. So exactly what Kirk is saying is, as you try to communicate with these people, they use all these tricks like disappearing acts. Okay. And I had that happen recently with the DOJ director. She's no longer the DOJ director all of a sudden because I recorded her. So, yep, they use all these tricks, but as long as you're tenacious and you're standing up to truth and you're standing up to what you can prove, then you force them. You force our system to hold accountability. We don't need to pay all this money to keep bringing them to courts. You use the Canadian system to force these investigations, like I have made headway to a federal review now of the DOJ breaking the law. And you know what law I'm charging them with? Document manipulation. Do you think that that's a small crime? I was held instantly accountable for standing in peace. 2 years labeled a criminal. When I show up to trial, the judges don't even show up. No judge ever showed up to my trial. And 2 days later, it was withdrawn completely. I had a 17-page charter challenge. On that last page, it says that if you try me, you will put this court into disrepute. They didn't even want that entered. Okay, because it's all backed up with case law and everything else, and nobody wants to listen to this. These heads of the Hero Corporation like to call me stupid and call Kirk stupid and David stupid. It's the silliest thing I ever heard. Fight me with a meme and then block me? You're silly.
Yeah, that's true, and that's the thing. And I have recordings of the military ombudsman. He says, Kirk, all I can think about this weekend is you sleep in the back of your truck with your kid, and then all of a sudden, over the like, I have so much recordings. He says, Kirk, it's the government; they can do whatever they want to you. And then he was taken off the case. I got another guy. And he says, Kirk, what more do you want from me? You already got your disability. Like I get $1,200 a month for disability. I used to make that before lunch when I was contracting with people working for me. The guy's a successful contractor in the oil fields and gold mines, uranium mines. And I'm like, I don't care about the money. I joined the army after I already had money. I was trying to give back to my country. And Dana's right. It's just like yeah, they're trying hard to keep everyone from speaking, but the more people that speak, the safer I feel. Like I had death threats, and uh, it's been never ending. Like you can't run forever, is what they tell me. And I'm, you know, back in 5 years ago was way worse when especially when I went across the states and they said, nope, you're on your own. And I went to talk to the lieutenant colonel. He says, Kirk, you did everything you're supposed to do, but you're the only one. You're fucked, and that's how it was. And I always thought they were kidding because I was just doing my job, right? And all of us were doing our jobs, and we're good people trying to help Canada. But it just bothers me that all of these, like Dana says, all these famous podcasters and famous freedom people, not one of them will mention my story. Well, a few have, but they'll mention it, and then they'll say, "Holy fuck, we shouldn't have opened that bag of worms. Let's never talk to that guy again." And but
Well,
yeah.
well, in their defense, even though I'm against most of them, you weren't completely ready. You did not have a complete vision that was able to be presented and stuff. Because even me, it took a long time to understand what you were saying. So, but you've gotten a lot better because you learn. We didn't want to do this. This isn't what I did, and I shouldn't even be working. I'm not working. I'm fighting for my life. I've been in court for over 7 years with the government as my employer because I'm sick. But instead of helping me, and I have to listen to my PM on X every day saying, "Oh, we're fighting for labor, we're fighting for our people and everything," as he fights me in court for 7 years. When I have doctors that have said that I'm incurable, okay, and it hurts.
Yeah, having ethics is incurable. Go ahead, Dave, please.
Yeah, sorry to hear that piece, man. That's kind of all of our stories, right? As a whistleblower, the hitting us in our hearts, which is integrity, is really really tough to take when they start pulling out. In my case, they pulled out a psychiatrist from Edmonton, 70-year-old guy who decided to um, look at my medical records that the judge ordered me to supply the courts, and then come up with his own, without saying it, diagnosis, his own, what he thought was wrong with me, and then trying to get the judge to order me into a psychiatric ward for assessment for an indefinite period of time, which they can do in the courts, by the way, in the civil courts. And what this guy had diagnosed me with, without saying the word diagnosis, was either schizophrenia with delusions or a personality disorder with delusions. So it was two beauties there. So that's with my medical records that said that I had PTSD, because of course that just comes with the territory. If you don't have PTSD after a year, let alone 10 years of getting involved as a whistleblower, you're obviously a sociopath or something. But I wanted to get back to what Daniel said. Daniel, I could have answered your question in the first 30 seconds, which is I'm also in BC. There are no, there's just, there's nobody out there to help us. Nobody wants to listen to our story. Um, it's kind of along the lines of exactly what Kirk was following up with afterwards. I mean, soon as someone hears our story, they feel like they're culpable, or they're they just want to run away. They just want to delete our communications and pretend that that didn't happen. They just don't want to get involved. It's job limiting, and we've seen so many people that we have told our story that just vanish, and that's just a typical thing. We've been involved in our stories, Daniel, for about 10 years, unlike most of the other people's you see coming forward now that have come out of the COVID years. I mean, if people had gotten ahead of our stories, Kirk and my story alone, even in 2019, let alone in 2015 or 2014 or 2013 when I was involved, um, this would have prevented, well, Trudeau from being even elected in October 19th of 2015. So a lot of our problems would have been solved if people were listening to people like us. So this is why we held this space tonight, was to how to get the truth out, and how to get the truth out is by getting people like us in the same room and all of a sudden connecting, because we're a dangerous crew if we all connect and we all share stories about how we got our truth out by just being one person, and where the avenues are, that like ATIP and privacy request, freedom of information requests, which are hugely helpful to a one person show that doesn't cost a lot of money, and certainly doesn't require a lawyer, and no lawyer would even touch this anyway. So I, leave the lawyers out of it. They're useless. I've had about 24 over the last 10 years and paid upwards of $1 million with lawyers fees. So I got my fill of lawyers, and I know pretty much, and I've had about another 100 I think attack me over the same amount of time. So I've got my fill of lawyers, and I know they're absolutely useless, and they don't even want to touch this. So the RCMP don't want to touch this. The Vancouver police don't want to touch this. Just politicians don't want to touch this. The only people that kind of simmer around it are the some of the podcasters will, and maybe we could talk about that just for a little bit. Start that as a subject about how to get the truth out using podcasters. And I would say that podcasters on the whole in Canada are useless. They're not the way that our story is going to get out. First of all, most of them don't even want to talk to us. And after talking with us, first of all, if you share your story to a podcaster before you actually get on the podcast, he won't allow you on the podcast. So you have to trick them, and you have to tell them a little bit, and then when you're on the podcast, after the podcast, they start telling you're crazy. So you sort of have to pull a fast one. So I've learned my lesson with the podcasters, and I just started about a few months ago, and I had like two real bad two real bad ones right out of the chute, so I just don't do it anymore. I find the spaces is good. I do find that there's a coming together, and Kirk was the one who really wanted to get this space going, and I was like, no, I don't know, Kirk, I don't know about this, and so this is our first try, and it's probably going to be really bad when you hear back the recording, but that's okay. We have to start somewhere, and I'm really happy that we have people like Peaceman and like you, Danielle, who are stepping up here and sharing a little bit of your story. The last thing I say before I go off on another tangent is that you'll be you interested here, Daniel, that I was actually, and I'd like to hear more about. I think you mentioned a lawyer on the Cullen Commission and involved in organized crime. I'd like to hear that bit more about that person, and I think you might need to sit down with what I'm going to tell you um, first, and that was that I applied. First of all, I followed the story of the money laundering in BC probably since about 2015 because it's a case that I worked on with the RCMP. And then you may recall the Paradise Papers and the Panama Papers. And so the case I had worked on was it was actually well before that, years before that, but it was exactly that. And so when that came out, I figured I must have had something to do with those coming out because it was layovers of my story that the RCMP had no clue about, not even an inkling. They couldn't follow it at all. In fact, I bumped into it just by fluke. I was a professional geologist. I wasn't some sort of financial guru, but when I dug into it, I could see that it's like the follow your nose kind of thing. You just need to follow the money flow, and if you follow the money flow, it leads to you know the money laundering and offshore accounts and such. And I was on the inside because I was a shareholder of the company, so I could see where the bank accounts were and who the bankers were. So, which included CIBC, by the way, World Markets in Toronto, which has a offshore banking arm in the Caribbean called CIBC First Caribbean or CIBC Caribbean now. Anyways, so when Ross, I don't know if many of you know this. I don't want to get into it too much, but there was a guy named Ross Alderson who was working for the BC lotteries at the time and at the River Rock Casino, and he was some kind of security there, and he was the one years after when I knew about money laundering. In fact, that went outside of the lottery corp to go to the RCMP and telling them about what was happening about the money laundering for drugs in the BC casinos. And it was him who started Peter Germain did a preliminary report on money laundering in BC. And that was basically Ross's information. And then that spun over into the Cullen Commission, ran by Justice Cullen, a Cullen Commission into money laundering in the BC. And which I think was nothing more than a cover up. I mean, the thing about commissions is it's a place where you can go in and tell all and never get in trouble. So I never agree with the commissions. It's a get out of jail free card for bad guys, mostly in this case who are politicians actually who are all in on the gig, right to the highest level. And so it was at the end of the day, what they ended up doing to Ross is basically my understanding of it, and which is why Ross didn't even agree until the very end to actually come. He had left to Australia to go back to his home because he was fired from BC Lotteries, and he was starting to get at the commission. He was starting to get a lot of blowback. Like he was fired from his job because he went to the police, and then the commission seemed to blame him for everything at the end of the day. Like it was the weirdest thing, and he ended up coming back at the end, and actually it was his application for standing that I read that I thought, huh, I'm going to do the same thing. So I filed an application for standing. He was accepted, so he actually testified at the Cullen Commission, and Justice Cullen denied me, even though I had provided the Cullen Commission information that I'd worked for the RCMP, and at that time, the RCMP had hired me a lawyer for another matter, let's say, but when the RCMP hired him, when I did my background check on this particular lawyer, I found out that he was one of the four lawyers on the Cullen Commission, one of the four senior lawyers on the Cullen Commission. So I was used to the RCMP covering up my case, And so I knew that it was getting covered up again. So in spite of my lawyer, I filed an application for standing. And when the Justice Cullen made his decision, one of the first things he said was that I worked for the RCMP, which of course was strictly confidential because I was a confidential informant, and I never even used my name. You know, I had a code name, code number, and I always communicated with the RCMP through encrypted emails and stuff. And it was very high, very highly kept confidential. And yet, this Justice Cullen, a frickin' judge, in his ruling 35, which anyone could read, says that I worked, and that's the only reason why I can talk about being an RCMP informant, is because he outed me. A judge outed me. I never outed myself. I never told anybody that 10 years ago I worked for the RCMP. I was afraid for my life at that point because I didn't sign up for that with the RCMP. I signed up for something really different, and it turned into be something really, really bad and dangerous for my family's health and my health. And so we've seen the result of that as we've had our lives destroyed. But so again, I think it's so many synchronicities happen when you get in these groups, and someone like you, Danielle, comes into the group and says something that tweaks something with someone like me or Kirk or whoever, Beastman, and that's how to get the truth out. So thank you for that.
Let
And
me
I'll stand
interject
down.
for a second before Peaceman. We have a question. What are the Paradise Papers about?
Yeah, the Paradise Papers are basically, it was a worldwide leak, okay, of basically offshore bank accounts that were in. So the Panama Papers were mostly out of Panama, and the others were more. They were basically, they could have been out of Panama. The BVI was a British Virgin Islands is a big one. So these base and people from all around the world were involved in this. High level politicians, Putin, and people from the U.S., people from Canada, billionaires from Canada. It was a huge scandal that somehow got massaged over here in Canada. It became more like a tax evasion thing than it did a money laundering thing for drugs. Even though I knew that most of someone who hides $300 million in the BVI was actually not doing it because they were, putting their kids through school. So that was in 2016, I think, when the Paradise Papers and the Panama Papers were leaked, and it made a big splash. But then it got shut down. Essentially, you see the odd time that Canadian banks are getting charged for this kind of thing, but it's not a big splash because, of course, it's catastrophic to the banks. Like the Canadian government can't allow that information to have. I mean, it would destroy the economy in Canada if the banks were really found out to be the ones that are really involved in laundering money in Canada. I mean, let's think about it. The drug operations that were running out of Vancouver during the El Chapo years, and during the years of the money flowing through the BC government-owned casinos, that was in the order of a few $1 million a day and up, I think, a couple of $1 billion a year. So you can't do that without the help of Canadian banks. So the bankers were involved and the politicians were involved, and it's all one big circle jerk, and they were all involved in it, and it was like everyone was part of this big club, and we weren't in it. I wasn't in it, so that's why they had to destroy me. So carry on.
Hey, how about we let Joe Every speak? He's a new speaker, and then Peaceman and Daniel. Sorry, just we're trying to get everybody in there. Go ahead, Joe.
Listen, I appreciate you having me up, man. Let me tell you something. I don't know if this is a liberal or conservative talk, but I live in Pennsylvania, in America. Donald Trump will be the next president. There's nothing the liberals can do about it. Canada is facing the same problem, just like everybody else, just like Ireland, just like Germany, just like France, just like all of Europe. It's embarrassing, and there's nothing the liberals can do about it. Let me tell you something. Canada, Justin Trudeau is a clown. There's nothing he can do about it. He's a little bitch. He's a little 5'10" little clown, and there's nothing he can do about it.
That's not what our discussion is about here today. I'm going to interject.
Can I finish my statement? I hate to tell you that. I know it's a liberal chat, but let me finish my statement, my
It's
man.
not a liberal
Appreciate
chat
you.
at all. But yeah, just keep in
Yeah,
mind
I
we're
like to
all
be able to finish. I like to be able to finish my statement. Okay, when you let illegal immigrants in your country, Canada is not doing their part. Canada is a joke. Canada is nowhere near America. Canada is a joke. It's embarrassing. Canada's embarrassing. Canada.
So I've just muted everybody.
sorry.
So
I muted that guy. You know,
yeah,
yeah, we just
can you kick him out there?
I don't even know how, but yeah. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I just unmuted everybody, so
Hey,
people should be able to hear.
now one of the things that I have thought of, because I mean I'm really glad to actually kind of internet meet you all, because I have felt that I've literally been on a 10-year journey by myself, and it's been quite difficult. One of the things I have thought, because I was previously a political organizer. So I have some of the skills. Now I also have really severe PTSD because of what I've been through. But I do know, I think, a way to solve things. And some people have talked about how, and I've noticed the same thing when I go to like podcasters and media, and they just don't care. And it's been really shocking to see just how little appetite there is to deal with corruption or even talk about corruption. And my thought was, before coming into this chat, is, and I've been asking around here and there, and my thought was, we need to make our own podcast. We literally cannot rely on any external media. They just do not pay attention. And my plan was to try and find people who are interested in doing it ourselves. We got to start from the ground up. We it's pretty simple. We can get camera, microphone, host. It's pretty cheap nowadays from the hardware perspective to actually get this stuff up and running.
Yeah, that's what
So
we're
the
doing
only
now.
question
And
is,
Dave and I
yeah,
talk about that as like, man, no one's gonna share our story, and I've been trying for years. Either way, yeah. Sorry for interjecting. Keep going, please.
yeah, and so, well, that's pretty much it. That was my thought, is that we need to make our own media. And so if any of you want to actually start working on that, and my thought was that it should actually be rather centrist. Like my views, some of them are left, some of them are right. I mean, I'm a disability advocate that has like libertarian leanings, and I'm all over the place. But to me, I just want common sense solutions. I want honest government. When there's a problem, let's solve it. I don't care if it's a left wing or right wing. I don't give a crap. I want solutions. I see there's people hurting. All over my X profile, I'm getting messages from people on disabilities that are literally starving. They have no food. They can't afford their medicines. Like, it is just so egregious what is happening. And I'm willing to put some work in. And if any of you want to participate, I'm definitely willing to put some of my time in and to help try to move something forward where we could make our own. I was thinking probably a YouTube channel, a podcast. We'd probably use some other platforms to back things up. And my hope would be to have a small group where there'd probably even be several hosts. That way we split the workload. We don't put all of it on one person's shoulders. We could even do it so that you could have kind of a segment of the podcast is made in Quebec, and there's a story about Quebec, and then there's another, then the next story. So like the news hour, the next story is, oh, look what's happening in Alberta. And we would, day by day, we'd go through individual stories in a small format where we just let people know this person had this little thing happen. And then at least each episode go in a deep dive in one story. You know, like I myself, I've heard you guys, you make recordings. I've got over 4,000 recordings. Okay. So you know, I've got lots of stuff that I could even, you know, put out there and start outing these people, because that's what we've got to do. We've got to get, you know, our info to go viral. And when I see what these stories are like, and when I listen to the things that you guys are telling me, I'm interested.
Yeah.
I want to know. I'd see that podcast. I'd subscribe. I'd pay money. So I think we're
I'd
not the
love to
only ones. I
interject.
do realize it's going to be hard to get it going, but once we can put some work in, it should be good.
Go ahead, go ahead, Peace Man, and you're absolutely right, Daniel, and that's what we're doing now is we're trying to figure shit out. Go ahead, Peace Man. Thank you.
Yeah, great suggestions from everybody. One thing I'm going to touch on a couple things that were said. One from David. This thing about these influencers and different media here. The thing is that I have the same strategy as I am with the government, where I'm forcing them to use the accountability. One thing is a little bit different about me than you guys, is that I already had 8.8 million views before 2022 of me traveling the country. And I have way more than that now. My YouTube is active. My website is very active. And I at any time I can look at the analytics and somebody's watching. So it is a little bit different because they haven't taken it away. You know what I mean? No matter what they've said or done, they haven't taken away what people seen, what they seen, what they experienced themselves. So you're absolutely right, and this is the beginning of something that is very good. And I have a full website with all the tools available to you. And I was going to offer David a full page for himself if he would like to provide me with information. You can look at the way I put my site together, and you can decide whether you want a page or not. I'll do that for any of you guys that show real accountability tools, though. I don't want a jumbled mess. Something that can be very well explained, and goals. You know, I have another project I'm working on called Attention Canada, with tent in the middle. And that's a couple other people that have been traveling the country taking pictures and interviews and stuff, and they're all going to be put on there very soon. So yes, great ideas. I am not well, so I don't know how long I can do this. That's the other point. That's a basic fact. So I'm doing my best. And like you said, we all have PTSD because of this stuff. And I had it before this stuff because of other stuff that you can always follow. You can prove everything that each one of us says, because we have integrity. I have awards from the government because of my knowledge and my integrity, until I turned my integrity attention to their mistreatment of people. And then they didn't like me so much. So that's the same with every one of you. I'd love to work with you. I think it was a great room. I do see some people that have been following, like North 49. I'd love to hear what he has to say about this conversation. I'll sit back down. I'll land the plane here.
Yeah, no, thanks a lot, Peace Man. Yeah, and like this was our first try, because you know we're at wit's end, and you know we got a group together, just
I'm
like everybody.
sorry, I forgot something. I'm
Oh,
going to cut in. I forgot that we have to the reason for mentioning that I still have a lot of believers. I don't call them followers. I call them believers. Is that we're going to get these believers to force those media to start paying attention to real paperwork, to real advancement of good in this country. Because right now we know they're co-opted, but if the people start really putting it on their social media and stuff like that, then that really helps us.
okay. Thank you, Peace Man. Go ahead, North 49.
Thank you. I know three. Yeah, I don't know you, Danielle. But you sound like you got a lot to offer. Peace, man. You were asking what I was thinking, and I'm seeing an incredible jump from Kurt and Dave. These guys are the gloves are off, right? And I think what you're doing is exactly right. Create your own podcast, right? Keep your own space going. Combine your skills, your experiences. Like some of what Peaceman has. Holy shit! I look at that stuff. Oh my god! And like all in a positive way, there, Peaceman. And I'm sure Danielle, if I looked at your shit, it would just be, oh my god! And with Kirk and Dave, you've got the recent stories coming out, the huge stories. Like Dave, I don't know if there's bigger. I don't know. And if presented the right way and just keep doing it in a sincere, honest, professional manner, you guys will gain traction like crazy because Dave's exactly right. Nobody will do it for you. Nobody. They'll fuck you every step of the way. So I would encourage you guys to work together, use your assets. You guys are all smart guys, and put this sucker together. Get a podcast going, get a regular space going, and I'd be in the front row seat. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that. And that's the thing is, I sometimes went for like 6 months with not a positive comment, and then I'd get one. I'm like back at it again, and no one like we don't want to do this, but yeah, no, that's 100% right. Uh, Jesus, I forgot my point. But anything you want to add, Dave, before I remember it?
Yeah, so this is our first space, like Kirk said, and thanks North 49 for your comments. And you know how people say, if just one person would come on the space, and or that, if I got to one person. But I'm thinking it's really nice to have Peaceman on. I'm a little bit familiar with his story, but Daniel, for you coming on this space tonight, that's a synchronicity. That's the kind of stuff that Kirk and I have seen the last 10 years that happened, that people mostly would call a coincidence if they didn't know any better. And these are this is exactly what we need to do in order to get the truth out. All of these ideas that are coming out from North and from Peaceman and yourself, this is exactly what we need to do. Kirk and I have taken it to the limit by ourselves mostly, and now we just realize that we just need help. And I think that's the only way that our stories are going to get out. We can't rely on the podcasters. We can't rely on government. We can't rely on the police. We can't rely on whistleblower protections because there are none in Canada. Our families are tired of hearing from it, so we can't rely on our families. My wife doesn't even want me to speak about this anymore. So this all has to be on the down low from my family. And I could never have thought this space was going to come out like it is. In fact, I was hesitant about it when Kirk first said, let's just do a space. And I just thought, oh geez, what if some kook gets on there, or what if, anyways, this is great. I'm just so pleased. So thanks everybody.
Yeah, and but on that same note, as much as I don't want to let it go, does anyone else want to talk? Because I got to eat supper, unless someone else wants to carry on. But baby steps.
If I could just suggest, maybe, why don't you just set a small little goal, like for example, book a space, say next week, right? So you can post it, advertise it, and get people to share it, right? And give you some time to the four of you guys, man, put something together, but put it out now. Give it a week, and you'll be surprised at how many people flow into that thing, because it'll give people time to share it and to discuss it, or to prep people. You get a whole whack of people coming in. I'm very confident about that. And great little space here, guys.
Okay, go ahead, Daniel, please.
Yeah, I'd like to second the North 49 comments there. That's exactly what we need to do. We've gathered together, we've exchanged some ideas. Now, in order to keep that momentum, we always got to focus on what's the next step. And as long as we can get together and bit by bit actually make small little pieces of progress, we're there. We're gonna get there. That's it's one step at a time. Every incredible journey starts with one step, and so let's come up with a plan of something to do, and keep the momentum going, and hopefully we can grow and get it bigger next time.
Yep. Okay, thanks. Go ahead, Peace Man.
Yep, exactly. And now remember that there isn't just online. Kirk knows that I've been traveling around Canada and asked to private gatherings of groups of communities. And I have been speaking at these, but they don't put them online because they're still feared by the social fearing aspect that they use against us. But make no mistake, um, you can see some of this on my social media where they are starting not to be afraid, and even like restaurants backing me and things like this. So we have to use those tools. We have to have these private conversations as well. And you know, uh, funding is always a really weird issue because they have weaponized it. And even when two groups came together to try to help me when JCCF broke their contract with me, um, they tried to raise money for my lawyer, and I was attacked by the kingpin and told that I was begging for money. So I have not asked for anything from anybody and spent my own money. Well, there's no money left. I'm still fighting. I've still got things under federal review. I've got a whole bunch of things going on, and and so does everybody else. In order to do these things, though, somehow we got to beat them on their hypocrisy of them gathering all of the resources and blocking everybody else. So that's a trick that we need to discuss. As like Daniel said, moving forward, this is actually a very touchy subject.
Yeah, let me interject there before perhaps North can step in on this. But so for the fortunate thing for Kirk and I suspect Daniel maybe, is that we're on disability. So if we weren't on disability, um, well, we'd be probably totally destroyed. So the money issue hasn't become an issue per se, although it would be nice to leverage the 10 years of work that myself and Kirk and Daniel have done, yeah, and yourself, And I think at the beginning, to leave money out of it would be the best because it really complicates things. And like you say, they've weaponized it, and they've termed it now the grifter. And so Kirk and I have been really careful on that one because we didn't want to be known as grifters. Because if you've got an agenda, so if I was whistleblowing and I was really going hard at, let's say, Dave Eby, which I am, um, it'd be very problematic if I was, say, I don't know, a member of the Conservative Party, right? Or if I was getting paid by the Conservative Party. So the money thing complicates things. We see that really badly at Coots with this Granny McKay stuff that's going on there, and the just terrible division between the Coots foremen. And we just have to be very, very careful on that one. That all being said, we all have great stories to tell that one day, ultimately, we probably should get into a book. And I think that's where it'll pay off at some point in the future, is that we do our own books, put our own stories in a book. or a movie or a Netflix series. In my case, I'm sure I'd blow Wolf on Wall Street out of the water times infinity and beyond. Added a little Narcos and a little bit of The Godfather in there too for some extra bonus. But yeah, so great comment. Thanks for bringing up the money thing, and you have to be really cognizant of the money because it ruins relationships and it just makes things really complicated. So North, maybe you can fill in the gaps there.
No, I can't fill in the gaps to that because you stopped me in my tracks. And you're absolutely right. Deep thought has to be given to this.
Yeah,
Your own revenue streams, okay? Because future revenue streams, which is completely warranted and justified, and you don't want to put that in any risk whatsoever. It's got to be a priority. Yeah, what I was going to say. No, I gotta digest what Dave said because he's a smart dude, and you have to give that some more thought before I open my big mouth. So, but just doing a space, like for next week, that doesn't cost anything, right? So, like Daniel says, got to have that goal for next week. Got to have a goal, right? And just the space is not expensive. So,
okay.
thanks, guys.
One sec, peace, man. Yeah, throughout the last few years, I've had lots of people saying, "Kirk, how can we help you?" I always say, just share my story. Well, we can send you money. I was like, money's not going to help me right now, because I can't get a lawyer anyways. Unfortunately for me, I'm on the. Not sure if everyone knows I'm on the very west coast, living uh, in my ship where there's lots of food and water, and there's lots of work for me. Like, but people usually pay in food and fish. So yeah, it's just everyone's got their own circumstances, and I just feel sorry for all those people living in the cities that are they don't have the options, and that's the thing. And go ahead, peace, man.
Yeah, and actually, the last thing you brought up was living in the cities. Well, I find the cities lunacy. I try not to go there. I only go there if I have to do some documents or something like that, or help my parents. You know, so yeah, humans don't know what the face of their food looks like anymore, and this is a large problem in this whole thing too. So I'm glad you understand. And I think the next step is to have a private conversation because some of us have never spoken. I never spoke to Daniel and never spoke to David before. And it was an absolutely great room tonight. And I noticed that we actually had a very interesting person come into the room that has a huge following. So they were also reacting with good reactions and stuff like that, and they stayed in quite long. So, there are people paying attention. And I am going to be on a show next week where I would like you guys to join me. I can send you the information, and it is a broadcast live show. So, and it has hundreds of people that join in on the Zoom meeting. So we'll talk about that later, but I want some private communication. I don't have cell signal here, so I actually use the Signal app with my phone number. So privately PM me, and I will do that with you if you wish.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks a lot. And that's it worked out, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Um, yeah, and I always
I
say,
was scared too tonight I'm sorry to say come back in, but I was scared too tonight when you said that you were going to do this. And I was like, oh, how is this going to go? Same feelings that David described, actually. So I was reluctant to even enter, but I did. And that is the step. You guys did the step.
yeah. And the other thing is, I always say, if we can wake up one person that didn't have a clue I honestly believe we're saving their lives and their children's lives, and that's the biggest thing. Is some people still have no idea what's going on, and I have children, I have grandchildren. It's just we got to keep fighting. Giving up is not an option because it's gonna track us down eventually. So yeah, let's have a group chat, and let's figure out a date for the next one, and we'll go from there. It's just baby steps. That's all. Thanks a lot for everyone coming on. I'm out.
Yes, thanks very much.
Is there anyone else that wants to give her last little bit?
Yeah, that's right. I'm still sticking
No,
around.
just
So
thank you.
I've noticed a couple people in the room who may have a burning desire. I don't know, but maybe the next one. Maybe what we should do, Kirk and Daniel and Peaceman, is get that schedule of when we want to do it. Do it for an hour. Do it for an hour every time. The same day, same week. Every other week or every other whatever. Once a week, twice a week, whatever, and settle on that so that we have a like a schedule that people know we're going to be on, so that they could
Okay.
set the reminder and such.
Being our first one, I just see there. I just looked down and someone else was requesting to speak, so I just added them. Sorry, like I said, it's our first time. Go ahead, Mitch.
Thank you. I never heard you guys before, and I'm so happy to have found you. And I, I, oh, I'm blonde. I didn't shoot. Thank you for the great spaces. I didn't want to come up and speak. I followed you guys. I think you guys are totally 9-0. And we need to do something, and you're correct. And I'm just an old retired truck driver, and I have no schooling, and you guys are very intelligent and speak well. And I need to learn. I don't like how it is here. This is not what I know. And my body's falling apart, so I'm running out of well, I've made it 8 years, and they said only 1. So it's all in the mind, I think. So I need to get involved, because this country is just, I don't even understand what's going on. Everything is backwards, and I realize I'm not prim and proper, but gosh, I mean, everything is lies and cheating and stealing, and I mean, all I have left is my word and a handshake, and that doesn't mean anything anymore. And is nobody genuine? I guess, but it was a real pleasure, and thank you very much. I appreciate everything you said.
It's when people like you speak like that, I'm sure we're all just near to tears because we've been waiting for
100%.
years to hear someone say that to us. And we,
Yes,
we
yes,
really appreciate
that's
you
what we
coming
want to hear.
on. And go ahead, Peace Man.
You got me when you said that, when you said you nearly brought
Just
people to
to
tears.
reply to Mitch
Sorry,
here,
I gotta
you were
collect.
saying that you're not
I gotta
educated,
collect myself.
but that also means you're not indoctrinated. So your mind is still free to learn.
I think it's because I've been a pothead for a long time now, and I always was a rebel. Even when I was a youngster, 5 or 6, I rebelled against my mom all the time. She'd put me in a dress and I'd go in the rain barrel. So,
Well, okay. Can you hear me, Kirk?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry there, Mitch. I'm on satellite, so I end up cutting people off sometimes. I apologize. What I was going to say is you actually touched on something there, and that's the planted vulgarities and the propaganda that has been used against the good citizens that have been doing this good work in proper manner, with proper speech, with proper education and research into the laws and the citizen tools that we have. And they are being targeted because of their knowledge. And like I said, we can all prove we've got awards for our intelligence. So just because we don't have gilded letters in front of our names does not mean it does not dictate our intelligence. So every citizen is valuable. I don't give up on anybody, even people that have argued with me or whatever. I don't give up on anybody because we've all been deceived. And deception needs, if you can't change your view, if you find out proof of something, then you're stuck in a box and you're not helping humanity. And that's what I wanted to say about that. And I appreciate you getting up and saying something because that's what we have been doing this for. I mean, I could have stayed on this mountain and never moved from here. I didn't need to go to Ottawa and stand in pain for 25 days in minus 35 weather in peace to be arrested and called a criminal for years. And then show up to this trial where no judge shows up. Are you kidding me? It's never, you never see this, but not one media showed up either because they're controlled. And we have to force the citizens. You, as a citizen, need to contact your favorite media and say, listen, we need you to cover this. And I mean, I know David's information is solid. I know mine is solid. Kirk is getting his put together. I've just met Daniel, and this group is going to grow because you know what? I have a lot of connections that also do things, and they're waiting for this. They're waiting for somebody to start it. And we don't want to be the starters or the beginners of anything. Not like these people that claim that about the convoy. A lot of them can be proven wrong through their own contradictions and hypocrisy. We have never shown that because when you can prove with solid documentation, that really makes headway. Like, regardless of all the blockages, we're making headway. We're actually doing it. So yeah, we combine our forces and our intelligence on these citizen tools, and they're gonna start having to talk about us. We're gonna force them to talk about us. I love you.
Yeah, thanks for that, Peace Man. And again, there's a lot of other people that have contacted me over the last few years with similar stories, but not as much evidence, I'll be honest. But it's just incredible how many people are facing the same issues we are. And it's just, I, someone says, like, how do I sleep at night? It's like, I sleep good because I'm doing everything I can. And that's the best you can do.
I, I
Sometimes I feel
forgot
like giving up, but I don't.
I,
Yeah.
I forgot to say we can't do it without having decorum. You got to stop using these slang words that were planted, like fringe and these vulgar flags and material and giant sheep and this bad video that's taken on the street by actors. You got to have decorum. I've always, no matter through all of this, even being attacked online, I show my decorum through my intelligence on my answers. But I can only take so much. And they'll use the peace man against me. Well, you know what? I was named peace man by the people, not myself. And I have challenged Mr. Trudeau a PM to PM discussion. I have sent it to all 338. It's all logged. I even have responses. So don't worry, we're going to make some waves.
There's a book called The Four Agreements, and in the Four Agreements, I read it in 1994, I believe. A friend gave it to me, and I at the time when I read it, I just had no mental capacity to be able to appreciate and understand what that was actually trying to tell me. But one of the Four Agreements is be impeccable with your word, and that's what I try to do when I do my X posts. But unfortunately, with PTSD, when I get attacked, and you'll see this, it's like this schizophrenia on my X post where you see this absolutely impeccably written, sometimes maybe some spelling errors, but it's logical, it's put well together, it looks like someone who actually is sane. And then someone will say something and set me off, and I'll just throw out a whole pile of F bombs. And so I got to really work on that. But after 10 years of it, and getting it when I first got on X and started posting, it was really terrible. But at least now, since I posted my resume, I basically stopped getting it. Most of the times before that, I'd get this like lady with this 0 followers, 0 following, and this big set of breasts or a big ass. It was the weirdest thing liking my posts. So anyways, yeah, impeccable with our word. That's what we have to be, because when you get in these whistleblowing situations, they'll pick apart anything and everything, and if you're not impeccable with your word, or you lose your shit and go on this tirade with F bombs, it discredits what you're saying. And
Yeah.
so
Well,
we got to be really cognizant of
Here,
that.
100.
David,
Oh,
That's
sorry. Go
why
ahead.
you
Go
never
ahead,
see
Mitch.
me do that.
Sorry. Go ahead, Mitch.
I didn't, should I put my hand up again? I don't
There's
know.
there's not very many of us in here. Just go
Okay.
ahead.
Okay. I'm really bad I have a potty mouth and it's really hard, and everybody that is around me in my life, they do not swear. Oh my God. And like, it's not easy. It is hard work not to swear. So I have come up with, my F bomb is now fruit. So you can fruit off, or you can fruit and take a hike, or fruit and this or fruit and that. And that's how I get, I really miss it. It's hard work and it takes an effort. And when I'm by myself, I F bomb for real. But if you notice, because of being on Spaces, and it's true, people are in their lives and there are kids and stuff, and I get that part. And I haven't been around children for a long time. And I'm not going to make that as an excuse. I like swearing and I like smoking cigarettes. And oh yeah, and I did wear cowboy boots. Yeah, I had to have boots to really put them in. You had to put people in their place, so you always had to be on the ball for sure. But anyway, I'm going to say goodnight to you all. Thank you very much. I followed you, so I'm on it. And when you guys have another thing like this, please send me a thingy,
Well,
because
very
I am stoned.
very nice to meet you, Mitch. Go ahead, Peace Man. Thank you for coming, Mitch.
Well,
Yes, thank you for coming. And please do one thing about what we do is it takes reading. The problem with society is that if it's not a headline and a 30-second video, then the attention span is 3 minutes. And some of our stuff takes an hour to read, maybe 2 hours. I have a document out there, it's 137 pages with links and proof and everything else. That takes weeks. Uh, the work we do has taken thousands of hours. So to compress it into something that keeps you involved in understanding it is very difficult to translate. I don't know about any of the other guys, but I've read your stuff, so I see that myself. So there is things like our websites and stuff like this. On the about page on my website, there's a blog. And there's one that I would like you to take note of called Exposing the Hydra. And that's what we're fighting is a Hydra. You see my picture? There's a reason that's done by a very famous painter a Canadian painter called Den Bouvet. He did that because that's exactly what he's seen, and that's what I seen. And we've been cutting the heads off, but we're now after the heart, and we have shot our shot that's going to be heard worldwide. It's already been proven. They arrested people that were standing in peace, that have stuff against them. So the people that have been charged with crimes are charging me with a crime. Are you kidding me? You made a mistake going. You made a mistake going into contract with me, buddy. So that's the point we want to make is we are fearless. We have been fearless. And despite all of the stuff, we stood in our integrity in front of the world. And not to tout myself off, but I was the most photographed thing at that protest in 2022 worldwide. Did you know that? And that's what they're afraid of because they didn't know who they were taking the picture of. And front page of every newspaper in the world. And then they found out and they went, "Oh crap."
Yep.
That's where yeah. You know it true, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, great room and we're gonna get together.
Here's the other thing. Before we end it, well, I'm gonna not talk after this, but my personal, I don't have any hidden agendas. I don't want to be a politician. I don't support any political groups or anything like that, or any peoples. I'm just simply doing my last military tasking of exposing this, and that was what my sergeant major's Kirk. He said to me, "We know you'll never give up." And he's been retired since then, but I'm still doing it since 2018, and I haven't done anything wrong, and that's the thing. Is like everyone, thank you very much for coming, and Kirk out. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Kirk. Thanks everybody for being part of this space. Has been amazing.